Gonzikta Nas Ali nga tsung gonzik sha tsamal tashi dile
Okay, so we'll start. We'll say hello first for everyone.
tani ta tsu tiri kedan in den zenda de zu zwa chali yin la song gen gen den nga ni de nga jo re ro zu zwa chali ye so nge ma kama sam chen ro chi di Dorje de ma shi she ni ti jil choro so na chu tan je wi zwa kar yo na mu si te rang Dorje len jwa yo bo mar kar chen de re tin la ndu.
Yeah, okay. So today's class is going to be mainly Q&A session, like question and answers. So we are going to talk about the topic of the class for 30 minutes. And then after, if you'll have any kind of question, whether it's question that is related to the topic directly or just question in general regards to Buddhism, so you'll be free to ask.
Last tani te deng Dorje te nga so kenga lam kir ze de atre.
So today's topic is how to take difficulties or problems in our life into the path, or more directly, like into the practice.
Tani kyo so nan chu le tani di o sa tani yin na mana nye nyo nye na mana nan chu ze ata zu te nga so nan lo ko so sang lo njero atani te le de che chok ta ka tawlam tani chi re.
Yes, so I don't know whether you heard me before or whether you have like background in Buddhism, but in general, Buddhism is mainly about showing the method of how gaining happiness by transforming the way that we are thinking.
Ani nan chu kar she or ze mi ze ya mere sem chen sa ma de kin do pa ta dinga man do pa shar ta yin song sa de ki jpi tawlam chi che gore te la gore.
Yes, so basically, what is the message of Buddhism? The message of Buddhism is that whatever kind of sentient beings, whether it's animal or whether it's human, like just wants happiness and don't want suffering. And therefore, like we need to find a method to gain happiness.
Song sa de ki ze de kar re ze ti pa ti so na aso nan lo ko sam lo chi re sa lo nang ki chowa chi ma to jen chi yo ma re ze gore.
Yes, so what do we mean by saying happiness? By saying happiness, if we really try to find it, basically it's just kind of a way of thinking, or more directly, it's just a feeling, happiness.
Pen na nga so men jun ro chi wa tin di ka le zu po le jam mai gyap tin di chi ja na chowa me pa ja sa ti zu po ka che tap che ja na ye du ngar kyu ni le wo ma te chowa te le me song sa ti re ze gore. Chowa chi me song na dinga re yo ma de ke yo ma chowa rang.
Yeah, so for example, when we are going through surgery, for example, so we get like some kind of medicine, anesthetic medicine that is going to kind of make our legs or our limbs numb. So whatever is going to happen during this time, whether they are going to cut our limbs, like whether they are going to, doing all kind of different surgeries, like in our limbs, we won't feel anything. So therefore, like this kind of happiness or suffering, this is just a matter of feeling.
Song za nan lo ko semba chowa ki bo yong wi che te sa lo nda man ra tang ni chlo ko che ki man zo na nan lo ko so so sa lo nda man ra tang ni de che ch tab chi nan shu ke te she de gore.
Yes, so the method of Buddhism, like to gain happiness, is not necessarily dependent on like how the external conditions are being completed or not, but mainly it is engaging with the inner mind, or like transforming the way of thinking or the attitude.
Ten ji ge sa lo tang tang mong bo chi yo bi dan ni tri nga so ka ngen che pi ka sa lo kar tang gore ka nge te chi pen tong da chi sa lo le pa gir ja chi le king lam ke te la gore.
Yes, so in today's topic, so out of all these kind of different way of thinking and different way of attitudes, we are going to mainly focus on the attitude which we need to have while we face problems, and what kind of attitude or way of thinking is going to benefit us while we are facing different kind of problems in our life.
Ani la man cho pa ni tsu ki sho lo ka chi ko ni tsu ta ja ja chi ni de she ja wi no che de bin je yang ko ni do pi dinga man do dinga cha ta pa pya jang lingan je u za pi gem to ni ke nga lam de ke ron chin ji lab zini sho lo ka chi yo re te kal ma la ka yin jing go le ger sar son te kar la o re ze ti nga so no che ka ngi mong bo chi che yo re pe na no ka ngi ze aten ji te ran chong dinga ro ten ji pe na chen ji long ji men ji na la so pa ten ji ka ngi mong bo chi le yo re che ki ji pa na chen go che ki ji dinga ze ata che ko gol kar ja na mi te so man chi la so pa ma mi chi ki la ma ta ma par kan jam dik cha chong la chi ni ka ngi mong bo chi che wo re o ten ji ka ngi mong bo shi chi le yong wi ka le kan ji sa lo tang go re zina te je yo re.
Okay, yes. So now we are going to talk about the topic of the class based on one verse from a text which called offering to the gurus. And basically, I wrote it down here, like if you want to have a look at it, if it's more comfortable for you. And the verse is going like this. even if the environment and beings are filled with the fruits of negativity, and unwished for suffering pour down like rain. I seek your blessings to take these miserable conditions as a pass, by seeing them as causes to exhaust the results of my negative karma.
Last one, Tani.
Yeah, okay. You can sit here if you want.
It's okay.
Yeah, of course, of
I
course.
don't want to interrupt.
It's okay. Just take this seat so you'll be comfortable. Okay, so we'll go now through this verse. So what is the meaning of this verse? So the first line, even if the environment and beings are filled with the fruits of negativity. So what do we mean by saying like this specific line? We mean that in our life and in the world, like a lot of different kind of problems may come, such as problems with regards to floods, earthquakes, like natural disasters and so forth. And also like problems such as, for example, war between people, having like not good connections between each other and so forth. So all of these problems may come in our life and in the world. So now we are going to explain what kind of attitude or what kind of way of thinking we need to adapt in order to face these kind of problems that we have in our life.
Last, Tani, Tanji Kabla Kar, Nachu, Samlo Tanta Kar Resinete, so Tanji no can Jictin, Chinjictin no pine, check the same shank no pine, Tanji Kang Mombo, which led the water. So would say Namata, send that to Sol, young and Ling and Basapa, Tanji Nama Imba, Monte Chiliore.
Yes, so according to Buddhism, what is the kind of way of thinking or attitude that we should adapt during these times when we have problems such as kind of worldly problems, as we said, like natural disasters and so forth, or like problems between people themselves? So what kind of attitude we should adapt? So according to Buddhism, to the Buddhist philosophy, the attitude we should adapt is that every kind of problem or difficulty that we face in our life during this time, this is just a wipening of what we say karma in Buddhism, the law of cause and effect. This is just a wipening of karma from past life. Whatever kind of negative result that we experience, this is just a wipening from past life that we experience during this life. And then it wipens, and then we face problems. This is the way that we should think about the problems in our life.
Sonza, Tanji Nimbag and Jewy and Sonza Ling Nimbag and Jewy, and that's what Minton de la Rixum Doji Shegore. Kachi Tendel Mamata, Kachi Litini Chamal Mama, Techama Inaya, Nyawatan, Yetaglas, but Dixalma, Maya Tendigo, Kashegore. Tendel Chimumban, Techamalia, Mandra with Jigatil. Now Duatina, Nyawata Yetata, Tendrolama, Namaduga, Limdra, Tenjikasam, Shegore.
Okay, yes. So with regards to the way that the karma or like the results of our negative actions are wipening in this life or other life or whatever, so there are kind of three ways in which Buddhism explains this. So the first way is that the karma, which its result, the karma, like by saying karma, basically we mean like action, like some kind of certain action that we are doing, and its result is wipening in this very life. This is the first thing. The other way in which karma is wipening, the actions that we are doing and the result of it is wipening, is that the action that we are doing and its result is going to wipen, wipen like in next life or other life. And the third way is the worst way basically, and this is the way that which the karma that we accumulated, like kind of certain action, negative or positive or whatever, certain action that we have done, so it's going to wipen into us like taking rebirth by the force of this karma or this action. We are going to take rebirth as like one of the lower realms, such as hell realm, hungry ghosts, and so forth. In Buddhism, there are like, this is the translator note. In Buddhism, there are like different kind of realms, not only like human realm or animal realm. Like they talk also about the hell realm and hungry ghost realm and all different kind of realms in which you take rebirth if you accumulate a certain karma. So these are the three types of karma.
Last Tini, Tinoni, not so Dupi, Namazé, the Carmen Nayakayorizity, Yashort and that same Delmana Yakares, same Delmana, Tinjo Narman, the Chunchun Town, Gangate the Champena, Saponchi in Jinka Duchachikanata Jana, Jebutez Matofmanto Maratin, of Dupinjo Mansati, Yashon Road, Minjo, Tinlemans, Hona Yatsi, or is.
Yes, so basically we talked about the three different kinds of how karma or our actions from past life or whatever like is going to ripen. So as for the first type, we consider it to be the best type of the way that karma is ripening. So what is the reason that we consider it to be the best type of the ripening of karma? The reason is that if you experience this karma in this life, you consider it to be that the result of it is not going to be so intense or like so strong. Like for example, if you did like a very, very negative thing, so the result of it, if it will be ripened in this life, so we can also give an example, just like kind of a field, that if the field is not so good, so if we plant the seed, so the seed also is not going to grow so well and so forth. So therefore, if we did something negative and it's ripening in this very life, so we consider it to be the best because the result of it is not going to be as intense as like other kind of way of ripening in other life, for example.
So tell doctor now it tell ma say chama now and raw chili kini titan le kesona tanda giken da chupa ina njo Geshe chonda ha cham mandaware ne now it tell me na narmang ding marsa ni chapa chi nyawa tan ri chi chi yore.
Yeah, so, but if you are talking, for example, about other way of ripening, as we mentioned before, for example, if we did an action and it's going to be ripened when we take rebirth, as we said, like in the Buddhist philosophy, there is this kind of theory also of taking rebirth, not only as a human, right, but also as a hell beings and also like as other kind of beings, not only as humans, because it's dependent on the karma that we accumulate. So if you're not going to, if the bad action that we did is going to ripen while we have the kind of basis, the basis of being like hell beings, so even though the karma that we accumulated is the same, so but the result of it in comparison to the result that is going to ripen while we have like this human body, this human life, is going to be much worse, is going to be much stronger, like something that we cannot really perceive in our mind, like how much strong it can be, like the intense of this result.
La so sonsa tsendal narmandar man top sona njewa chuchu jikal lenga njewa zapi janton la geti lenga ba so dikja leka dikja che dia ga namang njewa ta so tsendal narman chuchu kanga chuchu jinyon ni pena gona ta zu pola na sa jawa ta yana chi tenji ga kanga ro chi ta tenji chi ta sona ta kanga tsendal kanga chimbo tse ya chi na nyawal tena chuchu shu cha sonza ta tenji sa lo ta on di ta ngandil kanga nyon de ya ta ngaro tsenga mi nan mang njo mombo chi tan ro ri samni te ye che on di so tsendale semle ya kang ta so ma chong ri pon ro ta te chima ta na chu ji ja che ne chima nya wa ta so kang nyom mo go wa ten ke sa ni yo pa si yo re.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, as we said, so therefore we consider that experiencing like every different kind of problem or difficulty in our life that is the result of negative action that we did in the past, like again, like it's more the translator note, right? But like like in Buddhism, like there is that system of cause and effect, that whatever kind of action that you are doing is going to have any kind of result that is going to be similar to the cause. And therefore, like for example, if we did the negative action in the past, in Buddhism, they assert that it's going to ripen in a negative result in the future. So therefore, like out of these two different kinds of way of ripening of karma that we mentioned now, so the first one we consider to be the best one because, as we said, like in this human life, if you experience, even if it's like kind of an experiencing of bad action, a result of bad action, in comparison to other kind of way of experiencing, as we said, like for example, taking rebirth as a hell being and so forth, is going to be much lesser, much less stronger. And therefore, like we can think about it also, if we talk about it from the Buddhist perspective, we can think about it as that, yeah, for example, now, even though like I experience something bad, like something like I have a headache, I have like kind of a certain disease, I have a problem, or what kind of certain kind of difficulty that I face, so it's still something I can see it as kind of a process of purification, because now I purify the negative karma, the negative action that I accumulated in the past. And since I purify the negative karma that I accumulated in the past, so in the future, there won't be a reason, there won't be a cause for me to experience it in the future. For example, taking rebirth as a hell being, or if I take the rebirth as a hell being, so experiencing like this kind of intense result as a hell being, as we said, there is like that kind of difference in the way of ripening. So this is the attitude of the Buddhist philosophy, like seeing this, like whatever kind of problem that I face, seeing this as kind of process of purification, and therefore it can really, really make our mind much more relaxed and much more easy.
Also, tani个但过来当着等你种着我些那路径着我你这去看你这去就有，等你零件你这些那等你就是到过来着噻。
Yeah, so therefore, like we are going to tell two stories that are connected to the topic that we are talking about.
Last one, tani nga ma lama jing sam le de kabla ni ma shi gomo la tseli ya se on di kashu kom go re ka kom ni arma tini na lo ko cha ma tan ton di tanda kom go re tini ti wala chimuk ji yo re chimuk ti na lo ni chikta di chimuk na lo chakam ni chi chla yo ma re tini pa lomba na lo chi nam ji yo re ti lomba ge chikan ro ti lomba ge che ko ni yo ma re taka kom ni arma tini ta ti pari la shindo mombo tingo le shindo mombo yo re nam ji ta tin ro ni shindo chi za na ya ji re sam ni shindo the Zikanro di Shinto ya Tama many Shimato Hayo Maris. Aniko Tawashi Tanshu Cheni Tawa Denita Nisoni the Zen the Tawashi Shingo Lejani till Hasores, and it's a leon the Charlotte Chichin the Chamara, Charlie Yama Nija, Nukures, Sani Alani Chick down the Nalo Chatama Tonsarese, Chantoya the Tarantoni Samazon to see any going down go Kensachi Johnson and the Yans and the my unit Chimunan Chitati, Charanjandu Land, the Pachakoli unit Chitati, Chakoli Charanjandu, Parishin Donan, Rutishindoya Ranjandu. Atake Melantan Saris and the Atamata Cheti, a Zentaranto Alhandus. Get down the Zenha that so Chanton and Shaka Chanton and the Chiparisha Jambatan, Dangon Toya, the Trin Toy in Jam, the Carinas and the Koroga. Lama tel chingre de titikole ya pochon da sechama le yeta ka dingar shu mombo nyongo ya chiti tsendele kolo marak ta wachik tak son sha ze ni tendi sheng du ze sonsa kandanga tso kenga lam kerze ya tsendele dingar chingno ne chimal nya yeta la so dingar mombo chita nyomo goni tigir jingro ya tendi yeche yore.
Okay, so we are going to tell the first story. So what is the first story? The first story is talking about a person, like a monk that was in a retreat. And in the retreat, he meditated and then he went to sleep. So while he went to sleep, like all of a sudden, he woke up like while feeling that he's super thirsty and he wants to drink water. So then he started to look in his house and started to drink all the water that he has in his house, in his place. So he drank all this water, but still he was very, very thirsty. His quench was not, his thirst was not quenched. So then he thought, okay, so maybe I'll go to the spring water outside, like maybe I'll find there, like water too. Quench my thirst. So then he went down, but then he saw that in the spring water there was no water, like it was all dry there. So then he thought, oh, what should I do? Then he thought, okay, so maybe I can go to the river, like far from here, and then I find the water for sure. So then he went to the river, but then he reached to the river, and then he saw that there is also no water, like the water were blocked. So then he thought, okay, so if there is no water here in the river, so maybe I'll go beyond the mountains. Beyond the mountains, they are like filled with a lot of fruits. If I'll eat fruit, so it will quench my thirst. So then he went like beyond the mountains, and then he saw the field, and then he saw that there is no fruits also there. So then he was very, very tired. So then he just kind of lay down. He put down his monk robe and put it on the ground, on the tree, and then he take a rest for a bit. So then after then, again, he woke up, and then he went back to the house that he lived in. But having came back to the house, so he forgot the monk robe that he left there in the field. So then again he slept again in the retreat house, and then again he woke up. And then when he woke up, he realized that I forgot my monk robe. And then also like he started thinking whether like what I dream, whether like what happened last night, was it a dream or was it something real? So then he looked in his house, and then he saw, all the water that I kind of dreamed, it was not a dream, right? It really happened, but all the water that was in the house and I drank last night, there are no water. So then he thought, okay, so maybe I also go down to the spring water and I'll see like whether something has changed. And then he went down to the spring water and he saw, oh, actually there are water now. Like all of a sudden, like it was not dry, there were water. And then again, he went to the river, like to see if there were water there. And then he went to the river and then he saw, oh yes, there are water there actually. Like the river was flowing. So then he went also to the field to see like whether there are fruits there. And also he went beyond the mountains and he saw the field and he saw that there are fruits actually. And then again, he thought like, oh, like whether it was real or not. And a proof for it, that it was real for him, was that he saw the monk robe laying on the ground. So then he could see like that, oh, like actually what happened last night, it was real. And now like kind of what I saw last night and what I'm seeing today is different. Then he really, really started like to think like, oh, this is very strange. So then he thought that he should talk to his Lama. He should talk to his Lama, to his guru, right? To his teacher. So then he went to talk to his teacher. And then he explained him everything that happened, like about like what he saw, and like then he was thirsty, then he had no water, then the day after like he had water and so forth. So then his Lama said that actually this is very, very good, because what you experienced like last night, you experienced like a very, very big problem, a very big suffering, that you didn't find any water, you faced difficulties, and yeah, you experienced like a very bad condition. So what happened just last night, it was just kind of a process of purification of a certain karma that you accumulated in the past, and now it ripened. And now since it ripened, so you purified it, and in the future you won't have to experience any kind of bad suffering of this kind of result that already ripened and exhausted, like in this very occasion that he didn't face water. So actually he said that this is very good.
Las ani logi ni pa de ka re na so lo shol yo pi ka lo ni yo pi ka lo re genji de nyonje jini de ni de memba ke se cha sa ndu la ndu se ke se cha sa gel pa ju ka ke che ma re ke se cha ta nga su ke wa ni zon te ke se cha wa re ke se cha zena ti son de ji na lo shen ro ten ki ta wa re te la wo re te ko so ke wa ni zon te pa che lo ja sa na shen ro ten ki wa re te nga chen ro re ma to ta re ke yo ma re se Nigel Nasat de Shukchimun, the Gay Marze, Konatsayonayan, Colmemba Tian, Kyoto, Tani Yore, Son Kyopchen Yore, Kala Chen Yore, Yoni Yore, Kukiporin was not so simple jamba so tason as in the Natsandra Tenicha, Tenijatina, Kosol, Tani Chekan Yoma, Machanare, Menchenium, Kala Chenium, Dupo Naso Chinyani Dovore. Teli all masona nyawata yeta so masona teli samji me kapi dinga mombo chure kondi sendal ndi na sate so nyoni sama ta chonche wala na sana ka ngete se nyona koro na me nje wata so tanro pe ya porezi ni ge koro muza tendi song de je ma gomba zo ti pache ti tam le nima cheka tendi jik song tanga so yopi ka le tendi wate kenga lam kirze at tendi salo tanga yore
Nima kasala tu dan shukar.
parche nima chukha chingo chula chen
Yeah, okay, so this was the first story, right? About like the one who went to retreat and then he didn't find water. So this was the first one. So the second type of story. The second story is about a real story from of a monk, of a teacher, of a lama that was in the south of India, like from the same monastery as of Geshe and Dorje, like a Genla. So, yeah, so he said like that when they went like to the when he arrived to the monastery, so he was the abbot of the monastery, he was the head of the monastery, the one that we are talking about now. So this head of the monastery, so one day he really faced like he had like very severe disease, and then he went to the hospital, and in the hospital they told him like yes, so you have cancer now. And yeah, it's very, very severe cancer. So then like his attendants like were afraid at first like to tell him like whether they should tell him that he has cancer, like how it will affect him and so forth. And eventually this teacher like he asked like his students like whether I have cancer or not, like what do I have? And then they said like yes, teacher, like you have cancer. Then he said, oh, okay, actually it's not so much a problem, because basically since we are being born, like it's for sure that we are going to die. And during this life, what's going to happen or not, there is no certainty about it. So therefore there is no problem, there is no need to be afraid. Actually, I have like the best conditions here, because like as a human body, so I have here like someone who takes care of me, I have someone who gives me medicine, I have someone who gives me food and so forth, like that can ask me like whether I'm painful or not and so forth. So actually I have the best conditions, and also this is just a process of purification, because in the future, like now I have kind of this kind of bad result is ripening now, but in the future I won't have to experience this kind of bad result. So therefore there is no need to worry or no need to be afraid. And yes, he also said that also if we look about other animals that experience like this kind of things, for example, experiencing my type of disease, but they don't have the conditions that I have. Like they experience it much worse than me. For example, they don't have someone to take care of them. If they have a wound, they don't have someone to put bandage on it. They don't have someone to give food for them, to ask them whether they are painful, whether it's paining them, and so forth. They don't have it. And also, like, let's not talk about this. Like, if we talk about like the hell beings and so forth, like it's much worse. So therefore, like there is no reason like to be worried. And then after, like he passed away, and when he passed away, so yeah, now I'm putting the translator note to kind of to adjust to the audience here, because in the Buddhist philosophy, so and in Buddhism, so when people is passing away, so how should I explain it? When people is passing away, so like for us Westerners, like we just consider it like that he just passed away and that's it, like he just gone. But there are like very high lamas, like very high teachers, like with realizations and so forth, that actually there are proofs, like this teacher that, for example, he died, he really passed away, but then he stayed in what we call kind of meditative equipoise, or like kind of meditative concentration, kind of any meditation practice, like for 10 days, like still like after he died. And te kongi tutan la shuk bet tag te so karayom in bagetna. Yeah, so what are the signs, like for example, that he really stayed in this kind of meditative realization, or like this kind of meditative concentration in this time, like when he died? So unlike any other people that is just dying and his body is just like being rotten and he's just, yeah, like kind of bleeding and so forth. So this kind of person, like his other Buddhist master, so for example, when he died, so his body was still very fresh, even though it was like in the south of India and it was very, very hot there. His body didn't get rotten for 10 days. And he didn't brought any kind of bad smell or something like this. Yes, and he just like stay there in what they call a kind of meditative stabilization. So this is in Tibetan, it's called Tukdam. This is something that maybe you can read about after if you want.
Last, that's what some at the Nenga will leo the chick, the let's send the so senso vichetri, Kangi Chinche, because Nikangi the Chon Chon, Retilikangi Chimbo Yori Samna, so the sense of the Kangi Chon Dori. Jimsan Yipatan to Legion Chani, so Singami Naman the Tani, say Chamali Yapoyoma, Tendis Avlo Town, so the young Legion Reta, Kiwang up Challenger, Shichimbo Leon, so that the young Kiwang up Chimbolia, that's just Samson.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so therefore, as we said, like there are like two ways like to kind of face like two mental attitudes, or like attitudes that we can adapt during this time when we face problem. One is that when we face problem, we can think that even though I face like kind of a problem, there are like it's kind of a small in comparison to other beings' problem, or like to other problems that could have occurred like in my life. So this is the first type of thinking. The second type of thinking is thinking that whatever I experience now, basically I just purified like this kind of a negative result that I may experience in the future. So then I can also make my mind much more relaxed, and feeling like that I just kind of saved myself from other suffering in the future. So since like it's really, really related to the topic of past and future life, so I thought that maybe I'll talk a bit more broadly about the topic of the past and future lives now.
Tini kiwa chama leka chichi goala kiwa chama yopa kona korinta masa kiwa chama yichichi yogore mug yichichi mina leka le mari sonza te nzangi matal ko kiwa ngapchi ko le karse kiwa chama yopa hama kona tichet ngasukali gyani karche se trawat chaso karche pomont ko yisa yo samson trawat pe ya pojindu so tengo ni ngaso saulo tango sa jiri kase kiwa chama ngoni mepa ina ngaso kiwa chama tonta kali gyani chola riche gyauko yo marita ta yopa ta mepa ni gnal karishikche yo rezina tanda zambulil parche ta macho andawo che gore yina yang ngarondo che na gyacha gya kyo nga chi yopa yichi chinketere ina nge ya samitra watindi ni chong yo mare.
Okay, so yes, for like the past and future life. So if you don't believe, like if there is no kind of belief or trust, like that there is actually future lives, of course, like there is no reason to kind of do any kind of activity, or like to think about it and work for it, or like to strive like for the benefit of my future lives and so forth. There is no reason. Yes, and also like there is this kind of question, right? Like whether there are next or future lives, whether there is next life, whether there is no next life, there is past life or not. There was also like someone in the class before. Kenla says that maybe she's sitting here, but I think it was someone else. I'm not sure. Was it you?
J'ai pas
Was it you that asked? No, the you with the glasses?
Me?
Yeah, so yeah, one girl like asked a question like with regard to past and future lives. She asked like kind of similar questions. She asked like if I don't have like any faith, like if I don't know that there is future life, so why should I strive or why should I like make effort like for my future life or like for the benefit of my future lives in terms of karma and so forth. So then yeah, actually I think that it's a very, very good question because if you don't have any belief in it, if you don't have any faith or like trust that there is future life, so there is no reason to work for it. So yeah, in this world, so there are like kind of one who like there is kind of question like whether it's existent or whether it's not. So in general, like the general answer would be that it is uncertain. Like if we ask like in general, like in the general public, so the answer will be that it's uncertain, like whether there are like future lives or not. But if you ask for me, I say for sure, like I'm someone who believes in like who have like faith or trust that there is actually something as future lives. It doesn't mean that I actually realize it and like validly, like I could like verify it, like yeah, could really realize it. I don't know really how to translate it in English, but kind of realizing it like by valid cognition, like literally this is what it means. Like kind of it mainly kind of means like by kind of perfect reasoning or like by seeing directly. It doesn't mean that I have this, but I do someone who have this kind of trust that there is actually future life.
Last with any ta kiwa nga chi yome ka nenga chisho chi ti gore zina nga so anshu ge chena nga so shipa ge rupa ge teni ta rupa nga man de yung gore ndeni chiman ro gore te ze gore ta tser ke chena ta te parche ka pore rupa ze ya te ketan samlo chi ta tsama ke lengre ta samlo te le pa ge chelin ro te yamba ke lengore te la teni te sa kangi chisho te nge parche nge ma chi je yo sa so te ria yang jo chi je na ke yo mare la pa ge tser ke koro mun ro tong ge chena la pa ge jaw lo la yang jo leka chenyi mena la pa leka che umarize woreze ta la pa gyawlo leka chenyi da tanda ser nye yo rezina nye yo marize te manye tinga so namba chigina la pa ngi cho jagre ze woreze tu wombo zini tani jagre la pa zini ta tani jag marita puni gi cho jani ngoni te shiba koro gi cho jawore shiba de si gi cho jawore zina shiba la pa te sona koro ge yerta yerchang top ge pas gi cho jawa ni pa yore zini tani go shepa yore teni ani patala tai kishia namjari tiktam dala tanda tseru pa len tsawani ni yo mari tiktam jigni ta trin ro chi mat shasona tser ka ta ke che memba ta ke chi na ta ra la pa le ka samja sa son zeni ta shasar ta mi pa shol pombol in yuan ro mar nga so namba che na tel tiktam zegri namshi te de yo re namshi de ni girim bo ni ma chonga ta so de sa nga so us ni ma tonyo Tasal terachon tanda get ni ma chala chuma to de ma song ta chi nge ma ji gaden chok to ja pa ni ma chonga ji re tsir pa mombo ta ke tanga le son ni mi sin ta so zik tan ni yan sa che ni ko so ta ke ta ni che ndu ta shi ma tsir pa len che kan le o ma re ta na ba shi na ji na ta re de o re ma to ko so la ba de shi ja na ji na pe ti de shi tin sam che va re
Sam che va
na tan de shi ja ma to a cha re ta ta kar re ko min tron sa re Roma chakare, rocha kayomaju. Te lauti ta kuzo hako mundu sini tindi jare.
That's all.
Matrason.
Okay, so yes, so now we're talking about like past and future life. So like what Buddhism say about past and future life. So they assert that there is like this kind of what we call consciousness, or yeah, we can use the word consciousness in this occasion. So there is like this kind of consciousness that goes from before to this life and to the other life. As for the scientists, they don't really assert it, or they don't really accept this kind of theory. But what the scientists do say is that, for example, the activity of the brain, in order the activity of the brain to occur, like to be or like to happen, so there is something that need to motivate it, or like need to kind of move it from the beginning, like kind of need to be the first one who moves like this whole process of activity in the brain. This is what they assert. But still, whether like the scientists did find this kind of thing that do kind of start all the process of the activity in the brain or not, they didn't find it. if you're talking from the Buddhist perspective, this is something that that activates or starting all the activity of the brain. Actually, in Buddhism, like they don't use directly the term brain, like they use more directly in what we call Tibetan Wangpo. It means like the sense faculties, like the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, and so forth. So anyway, but what the Buddhism, like what it asserts is that the thing that starts like all the activity and like perceive the object and like start all the activity, this is what we call the consciousness. So this is the first kind of reasoning, like about like the existence of consciousness from the Buddhist perspective. Another type of reasoning is what we just talked about now. For example, what we call in Tibetan Tugda. Like, I'm sorry, actually, like in the last time, I don't think that I used like very good term. Maybe after the class, I'll be able like to find a better term. But basically, it means that the person in the Tugda, he still stays in kind of meditation, like kind of meditation practice, as we said like before about this head of the monastery from the south of India. So so this is also kind of a mystery, because even though the scientists, like in some types of occasion, for example, there is also a very, very famous teacher that is called the Ganden Tripa, the Gyapa.
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 Orange. Yeah.
Gyapa. That's the 100th. So the Ganden Tripa, like he's very, very famous teacher. So so during this time, like a lot of scientists and doctors, so they attach like sorts of machines like to his brain, like to check the function of his brain and so forth, like to see like how it goes. And they also like they didn't see any kind of activity on the brain, like it was really as if he was a dead person. But still there was something strange, because like basically when someone is dead, so his body become like a corpse, right? Like he's starting to be rotten, like he started to bring out smell and so forth. And for this teacher, so it didn't happen for 15 days. So they said that for 15 days he stayed in this kind of meditative practice. So therefore, like the
Tanda Zirk Geneshina, Lepa Shibarizia, the Parchi Kalikapo Shuchi Chazaris.
So therefore, like this kind of assertion of the scientists that the consciousness is the brain, like this kind of thought of the scientists, it becomes very, very difficult to prove actually due to the story, since like the brain was not functioning, but still, like the corpse, like was still very fresh. And according to Buddhism, he still was in the meditative kind of practice.
So the Nitzil Pataso now she to sort of Kepache de Atikatani, that church in the China, Hambatao Kaloya Pondrome, but Julik Tama, let's say, Canton Church in law. That did Kiang up Shazia, Yomar, Koso Taketon, it's Eric Mepa Timber go to the Takechi time Leondi, Tamatal Mepa Charo Machini, the Yopa Chato Chini, the Sanjina, Pache Yosa is in it, Seripamboles are resident. Yeah, because of Takechini Mepa Jajachini, Mepa the subway Zogo to Sangora. Takechi on the time Meparakayo, Mepa Marani, you are Lishu, you'll be Cholishu, losing to Temate Cassitas on Rupangamataniki on Upchama Gendro at Sericatan, Geshe Captona, Novega, Serisan Takera Shishu, the tomato Tova Meatani Chansaris, Sonta Nengachimbu, Serikia, Nengachimbu, Sayamata, Yangachi, Yomaris, and Italy, Church, Zavani, Chayomaris.
Yeah, okay. So therefore also like among scientists, like they have like still this kind of doubt, like whether there is like past life, there is future life or not. This is something that is not for sure. And like also like if there will be proof, someone will be able to prove that there is like past and future life. So someone, of course, like he will get like this Nobel Prize. So and then
Koti Yangachi or Marizini and Itachi Chocholila, which one is ready or Marcerica Chimbuchil to the
Yes, and also for scientists, it's very, very hard like to say for sure, like, there is no future or past life. Like, if like they really try to examine it, so a lot of scientists also say like that if they really try to examine it, so most probably it will go to the way of like that there is kind of past and future life. It will more go to this kind of direction. They say that if they'll examine it, but just by not really examining it and say like this, there is no like past and future life. So this is something that they cannot really
So last one number is for the Joseph Young killing or religion to killing or is in each con lap your Marta, Joseph Kipaji, that take Kipachi message that around the mountain row, then did you patchy in Bizomundu? There's Occupachi. Pachi Samari. Pachendo, she am touch fishy at Tomara, Kitchets.
The case is also among the Yona.
Mari, so Monte Casamlogic a marriage. Chichenata, Joseph Kipachi, like young Archicalian, the Legion to switch country use a recus of Kipachi, use a resi.
Yeah, so, and since like I'm a Buddhist, so it's not like I'm saying, yeah, like since I'm Buddhist, so you have like to believe next and future life, or that you have to believe the system of cause and effect or karma. Like it's not like this. But yeah, like still like not just by having blind faith. So I'm sure like that there is something that you can check like in these fields of like past and future lives and cause and effect and so forth. So you can check it by yourself and see like.
And the things is you got it. Get on it. That's all legendary and giving up your killing, but I'm saying all the carpent or your resina. Giving up your legendary killing China. Legendary that giving up your jungle at some message on the jigos on the police and draw touching me chicken tons at a mountains are mine Bakang. Leka Katina, Leka Ducala Zazamcha, the Leka Yaja, shoe paint or yore. There many legendary that giving up your chip cameling is it Mizia send the duty to any police and chumdra with digital Martin, the Leka Duri Ticha, then enjoy Ingayos on the legendary killing ballatry on paint or yore.
Yeah, so if we talk about the benefits of accepting this kind of cause and effect or the karma or the past and future life, so what are the benefits, the actual benefits of this in our life? So the benefits in our life, we can say that basically it really helps us to restrain or to control our behavior, like to restrain our behavior like to a more positive or less negative one, because there is some kind of a danger that if we won't accept this kind of cause and effect, that if you're doing like a certain thing, so it's going to have a certain result. If you don't accept this kind of thing, so there is kind of danger that in our life, like for example, if like the cops, like or the police doesn't see like what I'm doing, or that I'm actually maybe abiding by the rule, but there is still like some kind of danger that I can do like negative actions because I'm not going through the system of cause and effect, but I'm just going through the system of like whether I'm being seen like doing bad activity or not, like police and so on. So this kind of this kind of accepting the cause and effect that whatever I'm doing, like it has certain results, or that past and future life, so it has immense benefits from this kind of perspective.
Last Takacha Montrasongi Kecha, Tantam Jajan, Kitakama Simchin Chishini, Tanik George Lecha, Tajic, Abjurator, Tanik, Joseph Twandayon, Joan Morosi.
Okay, so yeah, actually maybe I talked too much. So I thought at first like that I just talked for 30 minutes, but now it's already 45 minutes past 4, almost. So yeah, so now we're going to have question and answer session. So please, if you have any questions, as we said that with regards to Buddhism, like in general or this kind of topic, so please.
What are the Buddhism explanations for disasters that cause like family related? It's like something happened to a certain family member, so it's the karma of that person or the family or the siblings, mother, father.
For example, if something happens to one of the family members, so whether it's my karma, whether it's his karma.
Yeah.
The case is so nangmila, and it den kan jag skicka chungna. Det kan jag skicka chungna. Det vena kan jag sapchen på dapper skicka chungna. And it nie legi wangi tende chungare, jag menar det kon legi wangi chungare. Det kan det nacho gingone shena.
No, nacho ngoni shena chigoro. Det nami tamal nyam de kan in chona, dinani sigue yenda hako yo marta. Ta dinan surezene kat hako mara. Ta chikche skenteng ke semcha skenteng lezeni kan chi chon yo ko tomong leg. Na manche zate te dinang chik la namang jewala te ni jamba te sol korong namang jew nyawala jamba la dabun jew ziat. Dabun jew ziat mom ngandre chik le ka ti chale jana ni atangi chopo samal kan so at ndi yongorwa. O tel dabun jew ze bor. Narmang jewa tanga ronga rochi po nyan enjoy re jambal ropa solo no marta ngemanga son jewa som shia tanga sora oti nang dapun jewa ze ati yong yore sonza ti nang shik narmang jewa le sa pala tini ropa solo na dapun jewa ze ati nyon ingire samut
then chitung gilegi chitung gilegi
chinteng le ze ati yo yore ta ta ka bore parche dapun jewa ingire dapun jewa ze penang le ka ti cha chile na ti le ka ti cha ti samal kan in cha ta le ka ya po chile ni nga tanjwa yo pi ma samal pen to atel dapun jewa zini na chu gi gore te dapun jewa yen se go sari.
Okay, so in this kind of case, like what we say from the Buddhist perspective, that actually like in last classes, I don't know if anyone like attended last classes of us or not, but yeah, like in the last classes, so we explained that there are like three types of kind of results, like from the Buddhist perspective. Like there are more, like, but we talked about three kinds of results. So the two of them, the two of them is the completely fruitional result. This is something that we should understand that is kind of an action that we did, and the result of it is going to ripen like for myself, like the kind of I experience the result, I'm the experiencer of this result. So this is the first type of result. The second type of result that we are talking about, it's called dominant result, and it means that, for example, if I'm doing like something negative, so even though like I'm the one who is doing like something negative and so forth, like this is just an example, right? Even if I'm the one who is doing something negative, so other people are going to have the result of it, like kind of they're going also like to be harmed from it, or they're also not to be, they're going also to be unhappy or like to experience a certain kind of result. So these are like kind of two types of result. So in this kind of case, maybe like we can say like that the one who experienced this problem, for example, the family member, so he's the one who experiencing the completely fruitional result, the result that he experienced upon himself. But his family members that also like around him and also like experiencing like certain type of result, so they experience the result of the the dominant result, just like what we explained now.
Tani tanda chimtangle chena zena yang jewa lokachi kanji ja gore zeta namang jewa yang cha gore ta so mi je tsa nyamdel kangi chi ba chi kyan tsa che sona ta si le re zena ngaro so ra so le nga ma mombo yor ina che ki kien chi le teni namang je ta ya nyamdel mani ra so namang le chi chab ja ore ta so sama nyamdel che ti chimtan da wo chi sama chi pa che wo nge ma le ora pena sa wo le che ma ta ne ta njuruk na ka je sa pon da ma lu ni ja yo na kien chechulu jati jati nyamde ki ora ote namjen so go te ngamal namang ma gewa te so mishi te chi pasayo pa chi tanda kien chin che palatini sama na me wa te chena kem tengeleze ni namang je wa chakor
la nante te kapsoni te inching ani te mishi te son nyamtut te les sa kyapa
le nga chechini sayo na pena Njuchik Tirichik Lu, Sanya Chiglu, Nanya Chiglu, Parum Chini Lu, and Chat Nyam the King, what in those?
Okay, so there's also what I hope that I'm saying like the term correct, but if not, like I'll search after like and I'll tell you like the more correct term. So the term like is that also there is such a term of like collective karma, and it means that also like people, for example, they accumulated karma in the past, like what sort of kind of action that they did and so forth. So they did a certain type of action, and then like it doesn't have to be in the same time, but then like there is one condition that is kind of that is occurring, and then it brings about to the experiencing of this karma that each one accumulated in like different types of occasion or like times in his past life or whatsoever. Like it brings about that they will all experience it together, like this kind of result that of the karma that they accumulated in the past, like that. And among these two results that I just explained now, so the completely fruitional result, the one that experiencing like upon himself. So this is like what we said about collective karma. We can also think about it as such as a field that we plant like seeds, like one today, one tomorrow, one day after tomorrow, and so forth. And then I put water, and then they all come together. So it's kind of the same thing.
First off, thank you. It's very, very, very interesting. So I have a question about the 3 different ways that karma ripens that you discussed. It was like very clear that the first one is the best one when it ripens or manifests in your own life. But I'm curious, what causes karma to be ripened in the second or third way, either in a later life or the different realm, which I'm also curious about. Like, is it that the worst thing that you do, like, if you do something really bad, then that will happen in a later life? Or could you perhaps do the same action as someone else, and for some reason, for one person it gets ripened in their own life, and for the other person it gets ripened in a later life? I'm curious what causes it to ripen in the second or third.
So more specifically, you also asking like whether it depends on like the intent of the karma.
Yeah,
or
like
that it's...
exactly, like the intensity of the action that causes the karma. Yeah.
Again, te kerangi te lemintang, te sungi korla, te kerante te shekyansan, te chikta ni te soso mitzetela, te lemintang, te keranta tena ni te yakshu te mintang yakshure, ani te shanpate yan te tsechimala, tsechima kanolu, te lemimpa, te yanre, ani yan te sumpate, ani te soso perma, te ida, nindo, la sokpa, ani te lena ani. Te minpa, ani sumpa te ore. Ani te kongitivazzote, ani te karela tene perna, karecene perna ani ngoma sakpelete, ani tse dila mingire mato, ani te cima la mingi mare, ani te nirva la mingi mare. Ani te yan perna, ani kelsi soso perna nirve kiava lansona, ani te soso kan sakpelete, ani te cellula tene ani tende chungiore yamena te con le ducha shochi shita masagna ya te
le sa te chu che ci rivedere
mare cansora pena soso come gapare mini come gapare ani te michikta ani te soso lete ani te dinamita ina te mishempa
nyawal
ani soso le min pezete anite soso le sakpa anite chechun ascoltate shukchelo lo tengiore cara chene
tse chamal manjo rezeimbe
je
ote tiencham chela shushi wore chetani pena ni le top chembo social pilendre chi saupaina sonde ze chabsana korogo jikeng namang chani chena nyawal ma mengereze wor nyawal ndoya jikin res ina ta nyawal ngi parten jogo rezina tin jogo yo mari kin jambala tuni anji wan joyo reze wor nyu jevimbe
okay, so actually there are different kind of conditions that affect this ripening of the karma. So for example, if you're talking about, for example, killing people, or like killing a person. So if you, for example, so not killing people, it didn't say killing people, actually it said just killing. So if you're talking about the karma of killing, so we said like before, like just for your answer, so we also explained about the complete fruitional result. So the complete fruitional result of such kind of action is taking rebirth in lower realms. So this is like the kind of the nature of the complete fruitional result. However, there is no any kind of certainty that it's necessarily going to ripen like in this way. Like it depends on other type of factors and conditions that this kind of ripening.
Ani so tsendela dikshang rawo tenji yakpo che tenji chewa yina tsendela pena socio kanal men dengon rawo chingna tenji chi kanal men tenji chi mang nyom ko tenji an yore la wo
Sedila.
tsendela diksha yakpo che tenji china so ti njo pan rawo yakpo che sem ko gewa yakpo che tenji china tanda jamba socio pi na mang njo to tsendela so ngon rawo chingna tenji chi ka tan rawo tenji yore la wo ko yang bo so.
Yes, but still, like we said, that there are like different kind of factors that affect this ripening of the karma. So, for example, even if, like we said, that the complete fruitional result of the action of killing is taking rebirth in lower realms, so still, if, for example, one in this life, like is kind of he expresses like not expresses, but like kind of practices regret and like try to purify it, like by certain type of actions. So like it can also be experienced just like by kind of having a headache like in this life. So it also depends like on how, like on one's action. For example, if one is doing like virtuous actions, like kind of doing good actions, so there is no necessity that this kind of karma is going to be experienced like in the what we just mentioned.
Kasa tandi chik leta chik shaa ta tandi maato ni maandro kundro achi na nga so mi te shikat le ondi muki namshi chiman tsam gyo ala tandi kabla chik shiya ori tandi kabla le kata topche na ti wanda soni pena ti kapsa gewa lefte uchembo chik gewi tsawa ninje la sopa tandi gewa topchembo chik leviona jamba ma gewi sawon katse wana to sone kapke mato ni gewi shik ti tse chamal dendro ya kendro res Kasa gewan rawa tadi me magewi nam kiona ti kabla le karand chik top che sona ti wangi te tantambi nam manda chagure mung le jamba ta sone kab palanya ni de ore ze ore.
Te top chelo lo tene.
No.
Namshiki.
Chakalaka. Te she ore.
Okay, and for example, like if you're talking, for example, when person is like is dying, so also like there is the question of like what kind of karma like will ripen like when dying, just like the shina and it perna and
Kevalian batachota si chega yore zena kapta te gevi le ya pojim gonde kersona dendroli ya kere ke dupa mombo sayo na dupa te so ne kablo ko kam mateni dendroli andro res kase dupa top che sona ngendrol mandro res kapta til tacho che res.
Okay, so at the moment of dying, so like there's also the question, for example, what karma is going to ripen and like kind of propel you or like kind of take you to take rebirth, as like for example in higher realms, for example like in human body and so forth, or like in lower realms, as like we just said, like I said, animals and hell beings and so forth. So what is the determining factor like in this time, so when you are like about to die, like what karma is going to ripen? So it is said that even though, for example, you accumulated a lot of like negative things and a lot of bad things, so still, for example, if in your life like the most powerful type of karma that you accumulated is the virtuous one, so this one is going to ripen, and the other one, like the other kind of negative karma, are going to be like latent as a potential, like they're not going to ripen or like to give rise at that time, because like the most powerful karma that you accumulated, this is the virtuous one, so therefore it will take you to higher realms. And the same as for the opposite. For example, if one like he also like accumulated a lot of virtuous karma, but still like the most powerful one was the negative karma, so this is the one that is going to take him like to lower realms.
I wanted to ask if is there any way to cancel karma? For example, I suffer from chronic disease, who has no cure, who made me suffer for most of my life, and I will continue to suffer till I die. And I wonder if I have this disease for karma for something I did for my past life, is there any way to change it or to cancel it?
So I'm just trying to understand that you're talking specifically about a karma that has already been ripened, right? Like doing.
Yes, already affects me, but it will continue to affect me to the rest of my life.
Okay. Ani kontene sonso. Te kongla te tenja ginata da koyore.
Karena saya.
Tenja ginata. Te takpa chen.
Takpa nadia.
Takpa nadia te natsare ani kon.
Nada sih pensa.
Kana kontenta nagire ani ante te mashi partu ante mutone nadegire. Ani kongi tio atendere te perna ani konla te kane endere ani te kongi lela te ani tende mintare ani te le min sargyote ani te tagya yorepe
le meya te nalme takareve se bora.
Perna kongi netsogi kapsa perna te min sargyo ani te tagya yorepe te me paso yorepe.
Ale tanda men
Mindebati mewaya se kithabi besa sangjai
alen
jira andi mutine nyamde gorbe ta khalo taji yorbe
lasa ta chowa ta ko songa ni chipari shanga en na sa tenja na sari chaya men jo na sa yena ya ta so takin saulo ta na shi ta so tsenga milen na binjeo ta tsendala na men nga le nyon de go so sa che chama la de jo na ma yongo mari ya shore sa ya tan ji ani ke ta ni na ma gevi le ta so je dang sa tan ji na ya tanda tsendele na mangun rewo tawo zoni na sa chaya yon musipa mari aro tanda yichi che yoro ngaron rizina na sa tawaran rini ma na sa deti di menga na deti vikabli pinja ta soya nga chondro re sa chopo soya chondro dada ga chondro re se ndu shiracha aro che ya mandu ma tsama kashi keni zonte shindro are sa ni aram shin lo lo de par shi ya cha ni le zonte chi yon chi karga kengi na ako marchitanda suta mengi injiro ro yina tan ya cha soni lo lo chini ko yombo china cheton na sa gedeng matse korol cha ya mereze de na ya chi pa ndzire nga tri cheti matse korol cha mereze de na tan da matse cheta che kini de yo ko so nga le sha cha ko shu na ze ze ni mo che sa chingi ngel chong ni ro sa so so sa chi ta che pare yo mari misil na sa yina ya lo che de na injiko
Mica și pe note, nu se tinde nanayante, tante tak.
Beti chikchena sosa de gaya pochina sama chakto kiresi. Karse chak matum na yan mse chikli ne ba zia de shita sakchi ayo maresi. Ke pochini de ando ngani china mse chikli ne ba ringo ni chi dada ju ayo mare la ndu yina ye tara arab chin de de. Chikori soso kan koyang pochina chikpari taki lama ti so na jinga so keni so te kense chasari la tinto saulo tane shita chapari yo mare.
Yeah, okay, so at first, like, I also, like, have this kind of disease, not me, like, the translator, like, the teacher. So I also have, like, this kind of disease that, like, kind of, in a way, like, disease, like, for chronic disease. So this is also something that we have, like, in mutual. So, yeah, so for example, as we said, like, in the lesson, like, the way of thinking, that the attitude that we can adopt is that whatever kind of difficulty that we experience now, so we can think about it like in the way that, like, even though I experience it now, so it will save me, like, it will kind of prevent me to experience like this kind of bad result in the next life, or so forth. Like, it will, I'm just like kind of purifying like a certain karma that I already accumulated. So this is like one way to look at it. And also, like, even though like we have like this kind of chronic disease that we said, there is still no certainty that is not going to be healed. Like we cannot say that, because also, like, if like someone is really like doing like good thing in this life, like in terms of like accumulating karma, accumulating like a positive karma, like doing like positive deeds, like doing like a certain method, like applying a certain method that are going to purify it. So we cannot say that for sure, like it's not going to be purified. And also, like, as for my example, so also like I have like this kind of chronic disease, but still like like by thinking about the impermanence and by what I just explained, that the Lama before said that since like we have been born, so for sure like we are going to die. So like thinking about this, so I also like I just kind of live with it and try to be like easily and relaxedly. And actually, so like thinking about it in this way, there's no so much difference like if I really like having this disease or not, like in terms of this is the translator or not. I guess like that in terms of like the mental attitude and so forth.
That's what I'm going sir. Kibo tangor ta cha sense che gwa che o mare. Neba in English and roaji da neba meni mashia che o mare. Ni takila na jere na neba chani neba kyoni naba ma inki mombong ngel ro sa tronza so. Na tandaram che kibo chinde ko ke o mare neba ina ya chi musi chi cha che yo mare yo tronro ya chi ta chi kangi shira che ro shira chi o mare ko yang bo chi kibo de gore.
Yeah, so in this, like, we are the same. Like, I also have this kind of chronic disease, but still, like, we don't need to worry so much. Like, we need to be happy. Like, we need to live like the life happy. And like, yeah, even like, for example, like I have like a certain disease, or like you have a certain disease. Like, like we said before, like even if someone doesn't have a disease, he will die for sure. Like, there is no difference like between dying, like between someone who has disease or not. So therefore, like, we should think about it in this way and like kind of, yeah, to try to spend the life happily.
Is it okay to share something to her?
The conditions of person
Yes, is mama jama yanyo sir. De puchi ta.
Actually, for me, I also have this one gastric problem. Then I remember twice about that. It's quite serious that time. Then what I think is that That time it's, it's quite a bad condition, right? Bad, experience. But what I thought, it reminds me that I'm not permanent. It's quite good for me, really. At that moment, I'm not able to think that, but later on, I become better and better. Then my friends also told, oh, don't eat that and that, you may die. Then I told, okay, I went through twice so that I can remember what I have to eat and what I have to, I should not take. So through that, what I experienced is that we should not think about, any problem which, suppose I have a cancer means I should not think that always concentrated about my disease, okay? Really, because it's also matter of that mentality way of thinking, right? That what I thought is it's quite useless to think about something which make us uncomfortable and unhappy. So we have to try to find out through that get happiness, because we all don't know who is, so many people here, right? We don't know who is going first. Do you know, is anybody have a guarantee that I'm going first and I'm nurse? Nobody, right? So that those who have, of course, it's great, right? They can do more preparations before going down, right? So they can do more virtue things. I think like that, really. I'm not mean that I have some, spiritual well practice, but it's a practical way of thinking. So through practical way of thinking, it affects my life that my parents, my families worry about me, about you are going to die. Then they worry because I'm here only, my family member in Tibet. So what I thought is that everybody should die, but I think my parents died before me is much better because they care more to me than I care, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like that, right? Then fortunately I'm become more better now, really. Doctor also told me that you should careful, otherwise you may die. Then I little bit scared that time, but later on I realized that, nobody can escape. The destination is same only. Before or later or whatever, in between, same destination, right? We think we are living, we should not miss the happiness. Then not harming others, we enjoy oneself is nothing wrong, right? So I think that. So you also should be happy, should not concentrate on that matter, because you will concentrate at one point, it will more pressurize you. So try to dilute.
Yeah, still like if you have questions.
Does positive karma and negative karma, I hope it's the right term, work the same way? Like, as we explained only about negative karma, it's the same work, or is it faster or different life, or how does that work?
The way that they are ripening, like mainly you mean? You mean like mainly the way that these karma like are ripening, like whether it's like the same way?
Yeah, like good, like when I do like good deeds, then does the effects happen sooner or similar, or it's a different system?
Okay. Ani te keranzo te lengen per korla te kerante te shikemsa. Ani te perna lesanpo. Ani te dotan chikolope perna te minpece te minta la sokpa te dotan chikolope.
Re les zangan gun rotan chipare ta le yapo chik sana ta kinajere ken yapon che on de kat dendro le kendro apena lengen ba mombo chi yona ya le zambo top chen chi yina lengen ba ta sogna ni mite sechema dendro kendro adni shegore te tsendele yina ya le zambo wen narmang top ki ke poyon atndi ya mombo she yore ta jibchata shemo kota kanten rotan chipare tanda.
Yes, in general, like it's the same way, like the day war. Like for example, as we said before, for so for example, like when someone is dying, so as we said, like the karma that's going to propel him, like that is going to throw him like to the next life, like whether it's like lower state of birth or like higher state of birth, like also like if it's like for example, if one accumulated like a very, very strong positive karma, even though like he accumulated a lot of negative karma, like still like since the most forceful, so is the positive one. So this is the one that is going to propel him like to the next life. And also like if we are talking about in terms of this life, the complete fruitional result that we talked about in this Q&A session. So if like it is ripening in this life, of course, like it's going to make us feel happy, it's going to give like a good result. So in general, like we can say that it's the same way that it's working.
Ani soso ga tsenga ma ga chile ka ti cha che yore san to ya po chong ma sendel chen ga soso le ka ti cha che ya to yo pa ya po che chema tan ri ma che sam ani cham nyang je la so pa tan ri ya po gom tan ri chena ma ge vi le me pa chan ro ata teli do te ka ti na kontron ra wo che tan ri chena ge vi le to so trola ta ya tan ri ya she yore.
And also like for example if one in this life, so for example if you generate like certain kind of regret like about negative things that he did in the past, like negative karma that he accumulated and so forth. So, che si sono tende cena per tenere Geshe cena.
Geshe po cena magevile te so tandro ya. Sama chandro ya. Kaze teli dote kontrol ro tendri mombo cena gevile te so ya chola tanja tendri ya shiore.
Yes, and also so for example if like the karma that he accumulated like in past life, so we think like oh like it's not a good thing, like or in this life, whatever, like what kind of karma that they accumulated, like you think like that it's not a good thing that they did, like kind of generating regret. So like it's going to be purified, like it can be purified.
Before the result.
Yeah. I'll ask him like just to be sure, but yeah, I think that this is the meaning. And also like, for example, if from the opposite side, if someone is kind of generating a lot of anger, like in this life, like he's being very angry, a lot of negative emotions and so forth. So in the same manner, it can kind of remove or like kind of destroy or ruin the positive actions, like the positive karma that they accumulate, like it works in the same way. And I continue this one, the Kiran Takva, the Selson and the Tagna, and the Mina Yomar Basa.
Yanjo Mayo, or Yomer Yomer, so much.
Yeah, so it's like what I explained, that there is no ripening of this karma after it was purified.
Not so tomba nitzia to gomni yale ni tarbazia to on the petty dugbag nam yons of the tamas of agriculture. So much as on it, Zavani me pazo janatani, tarbazia to Vazian, also non binal tarbazia at the
There's also the let
Magavili some Sankaz on Yanjo Chia may have so at the Nichior. Yanjo Chia Kurum may have so the Nichik son any tarbatopsia, the Nichil on the chip.
Yes, and also like from the Buddhist perspective, if someone is meditating upon emptiness, like what we call in the Buddhism emptiness, like this is all kind of different topic, right? But in general, like if someone is meditating upon emptiness, so he can also reach what we call like liberation, liberation. And while attaining like this kind of state of liberation, so one is kind of annihilating or like eradicating all the negative karma that they accumulated. Like there is no karma, negative karma that is going to be ripened like in the future. He won't have like to take like all these kind of rebirths and so forth. So this is also like what is being said like from the Buddhist perspective.
How do you discover your true life? Like, let's say, half believe, half not, or I want to discover more. Is there a way? Like, how can I find out how to start this discovery?
Discovering, like you mean, like how to think, like how to start thinking about it?
Yeah, like, is there a way to know I had, and if I had, like, what was I, where was I? Like, just in general.
Mainly,
like I guess the future, I can't know, but the pre-life.
So so kiewang ngoma te kandes te kotugire te pena ni kona ni te so te tsengoma te kariyome kandes kotugire kandes samotangore dapsa te kandes si kotugire
te parchasa bo zawani ni kotugumare tanga so nachu na la ngoshi jwa ta tanji ngoni jitang ngoshi zia chi jwa yore tanjom na ha ko gore ze gore ta tanga so ngandawe nanjab yomar te manjom kiwanga ma ta pujukpa gente ni samlo ta na de ya son de nga kiwanga ma chi chong yo samlo te tang ni yo pan ro chi ye chi che yore ma to chama che chi chi yo at ngoni jitang ngoshi zia chi jwa yore kar se tenjok top sona sing yore se ore jen sing mare ka pore ta topan tumo re sona te ngoni jitang ngoshi yore singra anton ma para chi ki to ka cha yo mare te kashi le to ki kiwanga ma chenyin do 미게 나와이나 될 양레 또 마임비 레가리나 든지지그 켈렌체고 다때서 데서 상황샘디 메케파신 데서 시기야 카비가 네트서 시츠요
아니 소소 릭바탕 wala tena
릭반지 지금 ngema kandidat 카포리 다지 타키와 ngama치테 요리타 삼삼지 야사로 다나 요레 무갑테티 미치 인다 텐로지 인다 릭치 간지 인다 텐지 제야테 치칸 하고도 마리테 또 알레 모니지 장 모시 제야지 저야 나슈나치 시오 사탄 무젤라테니 저야지 시오리다 다테 나서 카본지리 사탄 무지 또 알레 데스 칼리카보요.
Okay. So basically it's a bit difficult like to know, like it's very very difficult, not a bit difficult, it's very very difficult like to know what one was like in their past life and so forth, like to see like there was this or that. And yeah, so this is something that if one has like what we call clairvoyance, like kind of a special power, like kind of special power like that someone has like with very very high realization, like he can say like this kind of thing, like what I was in past life or like how I was and so forth. But for us like normal people, this is something that we don't have. And also like there are some people that by the force of uncommon karma, uncommon kind of karma that they have, that they are able to recall the past life, like what they have, like there are like some who accept it, like people who are able like to like remember like what they were in past life and so forth. But apart from that, this is very 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 difficult, like
Sanjay Jaji Picavlian, Lomata Sohamukoni Sama, Sanjay Triatrendo, Sanjay Kingo ceremony Chitang was in the Chustiangaman in the Shaman, Shiganamang, Lomata Sonal, Quinino is there.
Yes, and also at the time of the Buddha, like the Buddha Shakyamuni, when he lived, like this Buddha. So at the time of the Buddha, so he knew like to say like for his students, like who was like what he was like in his past life and so forth. Like he had this ability like to say it, but for like his students, like they couldn't like say like for oneself, like most probably like they had like very 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 small understanding about it. Yeah, if you have.
According to what you said earlier about the scientific and the Buddhist way to look about past life and afterlife, my question is there any cooperation between scientists and Buddhists about researching this past and future life?
Ani kira ngona te tsari ngona shana ni te kyo ngachi kandida poyore ani te ngampi ngona shana ni tsama kyo ngachi te kandida poyore te Dorje kyonsa ani te ne basansa ani te tensan te nang patetso tan tsari patetso ani te parla te dolang drapo chegior pe
Ali, Shirachi and Dukasakin Dingel John, Natsudrachi, the Triple Shiraki, Triple Serri, Tamani, you. Zerupamambo yapondra imorite solo trando ni jabaran de ngatsondra chibu koso ne koso kaniko de mombo soson de ngel jon zirupa kera chimbo sola koso paye kacha tegre tsia kacha ri koso sana kiwanga chi yore da mere tenji kacha triondi de koso tana hako mundu del tachia lengyap to mundu zendo lengyam to sata takinga so shia de at so kale che de ndu zen koso kyanga chi mere zemse tanda yoya ga shol le mundu zegde rola shuche.
Yeah, so basically they're doing a lot of discussions about like this kind of topic. For example, for my monastery, so like the things that I like heard about like this kind of what scientists said about like the past and future lives and so forth. So I have friends for my monastery that went to Emory University and they studied their science. And like while studying science, so they started like having these dialogues and conversations with scientists about like what do you think about past and future lives? Like what do you think about past and future lives and so forth. And therefore, yeah, like they said that scientists, like they cannot say for sure like that there is no past and future lives. And if like they try to examine it, so most probably it will go more to the direction of like past and future lives. But yeah, there is very, very kind of discussion between.
Tanandi poco penzo se acindo, poco penzo ta ari imori lopra ninjando, tinoni tseri kuchinindi gomba ane ta chapa mombo buku imori non roni musili kyani. Ta jamba tseri kol ta chapa ta so shiraba marta semkam seri kol chapa ta so yapo lenga ta tronon ta so yapo cheto ndu zendo kozo bajo ni tseri pa ta so ega po cheto ndu zete kozo tingolo tronon mombo chete uri namje.
Tama ta kozo.
Nga so semkam seri ze achi ora. Ti kol chapa ta so teza Ta ti ko le ya po she to yo sara shing yo sara jamba tsir jamba mambo zenjer ta so ko le ta java ta so shara shing mar che ta on ti ri ta so tli shara shing mandu la ko so ina sem kan tsir ngol tsir pa ta nyam da jama china ya po cha kandu la
Yeah, so also like there is dialogue that is happening between the Tibetan library and between scientists like from Emory University, and it's like we said, like the monks that have like dialogues like with this kind of university, and also in general like for monks and nuns, so they have like a lot to contribute about the dialogue with regards to and this kind of what we call this kind of science of mind, the science of mind. But apart from that, like what for like other kind of fields of science, like kind of math and so forth, like some monks and nuns don't have much like to contribute about these topics.
las tin ri ki ja go man do
Yes, so we can kind of finish it maybe.
ti che cha pe ma se ya po ta so ka tin che
Thank you very much. That's like very, very good questions.
yo so to na che al ka tin che so
Thank you very much for paying like such an interest.
las ani che po ta ro che ti li che mandu
Okay, please be happy.
ya ani nga so ja
Okay, so we finish it now.
ya ani chundra no chi che nya ya che ta yo ma ta
Okay, yes, please. So you can have tea, you can have water, and so forth.
oh ya no ni ko ja
Yeah, actually, yeah.